They opened my lake for investors, and something under the water started moving. I stood on my dock watching strangers pour champagne onto water my family protected for 70 years, and I knew something was wrong. The HOA president smiled like she owned it, told me I was standing in the way of progress. But I'd seen that water my whole life, and it was too still, too quiet, like it was waiting. And when it moved, everything changed. If you've ever seen something coming that nobody else believed, stay with me. And if stories like this mean something to you, go ahead and subscribe. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the chairs. They weren't the kind folks used for fishing or sitting quiet at sunrise. These were white folding chairs, lined in neat rows along the shoreline, like someone expected applause. 2 men in pressed shirts were hauling coolers across my dock, stacking them beside crates of champagne like they were setting up a wedding instead of trespassing. I stood at the end of the weathered boards, boots planted where my father used to stand every morning, and watched strangers turn 70 years of family land into a showpiece. "Hey," I called out, voice carrying over the water. "You're in the wrong place." They didn't answer. One of them glanced at me, then back to his phone like I was just another piece of driftwood. That was when the SUV rolled up, white Range Rover, clean enough to reflect the lake in its doors. It stopped halfway down the gravel path, tires crunching slow, deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. The driver's door opened, and Melissa Grant stepped out in heels that had no business being anywhere near dirt. She didn't look at the ground once as she walked toward me. "Mr. Turner," she said, already smiling like she'd won something. "You're early." "I live here," I said. "What is all this?" She glanced past me toward the dock, the chairs, the workers. "Summit Crown Shores is hosting a private investor preview today. We're showcasing the lake as a community feature." "This lake isn't a feature," I said. "It's private land." She tilted her head, like she was humoring a child. "It's part of the corridor now. That's how growth works." Behind her, another SUV pulled in, then another. People stepped out wearing linen and sunglasses, talking too loud, laughing like they already owned something. I looked back at the water. It was too still. That's the kind of thing you notice when you've spent your whole life watching a place. No ripples where there should have been wind. No birds settling in the reeds. Just a flat, heavy surface like the lake was holding its breath. "Melissa," I said, quieter now, "what did you do to the East Channel?" She didn't answer right away. Just kept that smile, but it shifted, tightened at the corners. "I improved access," she said finally. "Investors expect usability." "You opened it?" I stepped closer. "You don't open that channel this time of year." A couple walking past slowed down, listening. Melissa noticed them, straightened her shoulders. "There are people arriving," she said, louder now. "Let's not turn this into a scene." "It already is one," I said. "There's a reason that gate stays closed." She laughed. Not a small laugh. Not private. Sharp, clean, and loud enough to carry across the dock and out over the water. The kind of laugh meant for an audience. "You've spent 6 months trying to stall this development," she said. "Now you're warning me about water levels and reeds?" "It's not about reeds." "Then what is it?" she snapped, voice rising just enough for the people gathering nearby to hear. "You saw a ripple and decided to panic?" I held her gaze. "My family's been managing this lake since 1948, I said. "We don't guess. If I'm telling you something's wrong, it is." She stepped closer, heels clicking against the boards, her voice dropping just enough to sound controlled. "You're not the authority here anymore, Jack." I felt something tighten in my chest, but I kept my voice level. "This isn't about authority. It's about what's on the other side of that gate." Behind her, a pair of workers dragged a floating platform into position. A group of investors gathered near the water's edge, glasses already in hand. Someone popped a cork. The sound echoed sharp and out of place. Melissa turned slightly, gesturing toward the setup like it was proof of something. "This lake is going to anchor 89 waterfront properties," she said. "Families, revenue, growth, and you're standing here talking about what exactly?" I didn't answer right away. I watched the surface again. There, just for a second, a shift beneath the water. Not wind, not a fish. Something slower, heavier. Gone as fast as it came. "You need to shut this down," I said. She didn't even hesitate. "No." "Melissa, no." Her voice was louder now, cutting me off. "I'm not canceling a multi-million-dollar launch because you don't like change." "It's not change," I said. "It's timing." "Then maybe your timing is just bad." A few people laughed behind her. Not cruel, just enough to make it clear where they stood. I felt it then, that familiar edge. Not anger exactly. Something steadier. The kind that builds when you know you're right and nobody else is listening. "You opened something you don't understand," I said. She met my eyes, and for a split second, I thought I saw doubt flicker there. Then it was gone. "What I understand," she said, "is that this land sat unused for decades. Now it's finally worth something. It was always worth something. Not to anyone who mattered." That landed harder than I expected. For a moment I saw my father standing where I was, hands on his hips, staring out over this same water. He never raised his voice either. Never needed to. He just paid attention. Same as I was doing now. Another movement in the lake. Closer this time. A dark shape just beneath the surface sliding against the reflection of the sky. I took a slow breath. "Get your people out of the water," I said. Melissa didn't even turn to look. "There are no people in the water yet." "There will be." "Good," she said. "That's the point." I shook my head once. "You don't get it." "No," she said, stepping back, lifting her chin slightly. "You don't." She turned away from me, already calling out instructions to the workers. Her voice smooth again. Controlled, confident. Like nothing was wrong. Like the lake hadn't changed. Like she hadn't just opened something that had been sealed for a reason. I stood there on the dock, watching the surface, feeling that same stillness settle deeper. Something had shifted, and whatever came through that east channel was already here. I didn't stay for the champagne. By the time the first group of investors started drifting toward the dock, I was already halfway up the gravel road, heading east. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough. If Gate 4 had been opened, I needed to see it myself. The maintenance road curved along the tree line, narrow and uneven, the same path my father drove every morning before sunrise. My truck rattled over the familiar dips, tires kicking up dust where the grass hadn't grown back right. That road wasn't part of any HOA map. It wasn't in their brochures, their presentations, or their community plans. It existed for one reason: access. Access to the 4 control points that kept this lake from turning into something else. I slowed before the bend where the first warning sign should have been. It wasn't there. Just 2 empty bolts sticking out of a cedar post, the metal still bright where the sign had been pulled clean off. I stepped out of the truck, ran my hand across the wood. Fresh scratches. Not weathered. Not old. Someone had taken it recently. I kept moving. The second sign was gone too. Same with the third. By the time I reached the narrow stretch leading to the eastern channel, my jaw was tight enough to hurt. They hadn't just opened the gate. They'd erased every warning that explained why it stayed closed. I parked near the last bend and walked the rest of the way. The air felt different out there, heavier. Not quiet like the main lake. This was a working silence, the kind you get in places that don't need people. Gate 4 came into view, or what was left of it. The steel barrier that used to sit anchored in concrete was bent inward, one side torn loose like something had forced its way through. The chain that held the secondary lock hung slack, one end still wrapped around a cypress trunk. The other end lay on the ground, cut clean. I crouched beside it, picked it up. The metal edge was sharp, bright, not rusted, not snapped from strain. Cut. "Damn it," I muttered. Water pushed through the opening faster than it should have, carrying a thin layer of silt that spread into the lake like a stain. The current was wrong, too strong for this time of year. I stepped closer to the channel, eyes tracking the flow. Black reed marsh sat just beyond that break, dense, shallow, and untouched. That was the point. It was a protected zone, not by the HOA, not by any county office, by us, by the people who actually understood what lived there. I heard a truck door slam behind me. Figured I'd find you here. I turned. Daniel Brooks walked up the path, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense like he didn't want to be seen. He stopped a few feet away, eyes flicking from me to the gate. "They did it, didn't they?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just nodded once. "Paid a contractor out of something labeled Shoreline Access Improvement," he said. "No board vote, no notice. Just done." I stood up, looking back at the damage. "How long?" "2 nights ago." He shifted his weight. "They ran equipment out here after dark. Blue Arc crew, same guys working the marina. Richard Grant's company, of course. They told us it was for boat traffic," Daniel went on. "Widen the channel, make it easier for larger vessels. Investors like that kind of thing." I let out a slow breath. "They don't even know what this is," I said. "They don't care what it is." That hit harder because it was true. I walked along the edge of the channel, following the tracks pressed into the mud. Wide steel treads, fresh, leading right up to the broken section of the barrier. "They didn't just open it," I said. "They forced it." Daniel glanced at the water. "You think it matters now?" I looked out across the surface where the marsh fed into the lake. "It matters every minute from here on out." He hesitated. "Jack, what exactly is supposed to stay on the other side of that gate?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I pointed toward the waterline where the reeds bent slightly, not from wind, but from something moving beneath them. "Movement patterns change this time of year," I said. "Breeding season shifts. Territories overlap. If that barrier's gone..." I let the sentence hang. Daniel swallowed. "You told Melissa?" She laughed. Of course she did. We stood there for a moment, both watching the channel. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded paper. "I shouldn't have this," he said, "but you need to see it." I took it, unfolded it. Invoice, $18,000. Crawford and Pike Consulting. Description: waterway access expansion. No authorization signature. No meeting record. Just Melissa's name typed at the bottom. "She's been moving money around for weeks," Daniel said quietly. "Different categories, legal, maintenance, shoreline, same accounts, different labels." I handed it back. "She's building a case," I said. "For what?" "For when something goes wrong." Daniel frowned. "You think she knows?" "No." I shook my head. "If she knew, she wouldn't have done this." That was the problem. This wasn't calculated risk. It was ignorance dressed up like authority. I stepped closer to the edge of the water, watching the current. Something broke the surface for half a second. Just a line, low and dark, cutting across the reflection. Gone before it could be named. But I'd seen enough of those shapes in my life to recognize what they meant. "They won't stay in the marsh now," I said. Daniel followed my gaze. "What won't?" I looked back toward the lake, toward the direction of the dock, the chairs, the people, the things that belong on the other side of that gate. He went still. "You're saying they're already moving?" I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. The water already had. Daniel took a step back, running a hand through his hair. "You need to shut that event down." I tried. "Then try again." I looked down at the broken chain, then back at the open channel. "No," I said, "not like that." He blinked. "Then how?" I met his eyes. "By making sure when this hits," I said, "there's no way they can pretend they didn't cause it." Daniel stared at me for a second, then nodded slowly. "You're building something." "I'm documenting it," he exhaled. "That's going to take time." I looked out at the water again. We don't have much of it. Behind us, somewhere far off, I could hear faint music drifting from the direction of the dock. Laughter. Glasses clinking, engines starting. The event was beginning, and whatever had slipped through that open gate was already heading straight for it. I didn't drive back slow this time. By the time I reached the main dock, the place looked nothing like it had an hour ago. Music played from speakers set up along the shoreline. A banner stretched between two poles. Summit Crown Shores, private waterfront living. People were already gathered in clusters, drinks in hand, talking over each other like the lake was just another backdrop. Like it didn't matter. I parked hard, stepped out, and walked straight toward the dock. Melissa spotted me before I reached the first row of chairs. "There he is," she said, loud enough for the group around her to hear. "I was wondering when you'd come back." "I need you to shut this down," I said. No greeting, no build-up. A few heads turned, conversations dipped just enough to listen. Melissa didn't even glance at the water. "We've already had this conversation." "No, we didn't. That was before I confirmed what you did." Her smile tightened. "What I did was improve access to a resource your family has been hoarding. You opened Gate 4. That landed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough that a couple of the investors shifted their weight, glancing toward the lake. Melissa's eyes flicked for half a second, just long enough to register the hit. Then she recovered. "I authorized necessary modifications to ensure safe navigation," she said. "That's well within HOA authority." "You don't have authority out there," I said, pointing toward the eastern channel. "Not over that gate. Not over that water." She laughed again, but it didn't carry the same confidence this time. "You keep saying that like it means something," she said. "But here's the reality, Jack. People are here. Investors are here. The county's aware of this event. You're the only one acting like there's a problem." "There is a problem." "Then prove it." That was the line she wanted. Public, clean, controlled. I looked around. People watching. Phones out. Tyler Quinn standing off to the side, camera already up, lens pointed straight at us. "Good." "You want proof?" I said. "Yes," Melissa said, stepping forward slightly. "Please, enlighten everyone." I didn't raise my voice. "That gate you opened separates this lake from a protected marsh," I said. "Seasonal movement changes this time of year. If you break that barrier, stop." She held up a hand. "You're not going to stand here and scare people with wildlife stories." "It's not a story. It is to them." She gestured to the crowd. Families, buyers, People who understand that development comes with change. A man in a linen jacket nodded like that made sense. I felt something shift again, that same steady pressure building behind my ribs. Change doesn't mean ignoring risk, I said. Risk? She turned, addressing the crowd now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Turner believes the lake is unsafe. A few murmurs, confusion, curiosity. She smiled. I'd like to remind everyone that this lake has been here for decades without incident. And today, we have full safety measures in place. What safety measures? I asked. She didn't answer that. Instead, she pivoted. What we don't have, she said, is tolerance for interference. That was new. I saw it in the way two men in dark shirts stepped closer. Not security, not officially, but positioned like they were ready to move. You're trying to disrupt a lawful event, Melissa went on, and I won't allow that. Lawful? I said. You used HOA funds to alter private infrastructure without a vote. That got a reaction. Daniel's invoice was still fresh in my head. Melissa's eyes sharpened. Careful. No, I said. You should have been careful. The air shifted again. Tyler moved closer, camera steady. Melissa, he said, stepping into the edge of the exchange. Can you confirm whether the HOA authorized construction at the East Channel? She didn't look at him. This isn't a press conference, she said. It is now, he replied. A couple of investors stepped back, giving space. Melissa's smile came back, thinner this time. All improvements were reviewed internally, she said, and deemed necessary. By who? Tyler asked. By leadership. Without a board vote? She turned on him then, just enough edge slipping through. You're out of line. And you're avoiding the question. Silence. Not long, but enough. I stepped in. 7 inspectors cleared my property in the last 8 weeks, I said. Health, environmental, structural, all clean. That's because we reported you, Melissa snapped. Exactly, I said. You built a paper trail to make me look like the problem. A few people exchanged looks. That's ridiculous, she said. No, I said. What's ridiculous is opening a restricted channel 2 days before this event and pretending it doesn't matter. Her jaw tightened. You don't get to dictate what happens here anymore, she said. I never dictated anything, I replied. I maintained it. For who? Yourself? For anyone who didn't want to get hurt? That hung there. Tyler's camera stayed locked. Melissa took a breath, then shifted tone again. Smooth, controlled. Security, she said. The 2 men stepped forward. Escort Mr. Turner off the premises. I didn't move. This isn't your premises, I said. It is today. One of the men reached for my arm. I stepped back just enough to avoid it. You don't want to do that, I said. Sir, he said low, let's not make this worse. I looked past him, at the water. There it was again. Closer now. A faint line cutting just beneath the surface, moving parallel to the dock. Not a ripple, not wind, something with direction. I felt my focus narrow. Melissa, I said, quieter now. She didn't respond. Look at the water. I'm done indulging this. Look at it. She didn't. The line disappeared again. Gone. But not imagined. I turned back to her. You're out of time, I said. Her expression hardened completely. No, she said. You are. She nodded to the men. Remove him. This time I didn't resist. I stepped back off the dock onto the gravel. Not because she was right. Because arguing here wouldn't stop what was coming. I needed something else. Something that would hold up when this turned. Tyler lowered his camera just enough to catch my eye. You really think something's coming? He asked. I don't think, I said. I know. He glanced back at the water, then at Melissa, then back at me. What kind of something? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at the lake one more time. Flat, still, wrong. Then I turned and walked toward my truck. Stay close, I said over my shoulder. To what? He called after me. I opened the door, paused. To the truth, I said. Because when this broke, I was going to need someone to show exactly who caused it. I didn't go back to the dock. Not yet. Instead, I drove straight past the main road, past the last stretch of HOA signage, and into the narrow turnoff that led to the old storage shed behind my father's cabin. The place Melissa called an aesthetic nuisance. Inside was where the truth lived. Not opinions, not statements. Records. I unlocked the door, stepped in, and went straight to the metal cabinet beneath the workbench. It stuck halfway, like it always did. I pulled harder, and it gave with a scrape that echoed through the room. Folders, maps, ledgers, everything my father never threw away. I pulled the top drawer open and started stacking what I needed. Original survey plats, deed copies, boundary notes marked in his handwriting. He didn't write much, but when he did, it mattered. Gate locations, water flow lines, control points. I spread them across the table, flattening the corners with whatever was close. Then I saw it. The eastern boundary line. Not where Summit Crown had it. Not where their brochures showed it. Further in. By a margin that wasn't a mistake. 30 feet, a voice said behind me. I didn't turn. Closer to 32 at the northern edge, so, the voice added. Depends how sloppy their draft was. I looked over my shoulder. Emily Turner stood in the doorway, one hand holding a map tube, the other pushing her hair back from her face. She'd driven straight through from Cheyenne. No warning, no delay. You always show up like this? I asked. Only when you ignore 3 calls and a text that says, they opened the East Channel, she said. Fair enough. She stepped inside, dropped the tube on the table, and unrolled a clean survey map over my father's originals. County archive copy, she said. 1951 shoreline survey. Pulled it this morning. I looked down. The lines matched my father's records, not the HOA's. Emily tapped the overlay she'd brought. Summit Crown's marina plan. Now look at this, she said. I leaned in. The proposed dock system cut straight across the original boundary, 30 feet deep at the furthest point. Not a rounding error, I said. No, she replied. It's a land grab. I straightened, exhaling slowly. They're building into the lake, I said. They're building into your lake. That settled it. Not influence, not interpretation. Ownership. And it lines up with the channel, I said. Emily nodded once. I noticed that too. She slid another sheet across the table. Topographic flow lines. Water movement. Elevation shifts. The marina expansion path overlapped directly with the natural current that fed in from Black Reed Marsh. Same direction. Same path. That's not coincidence, I said. No, she said. It's design. I looked at her. They opened Gate 4 to support this, and they moved the boundary on paper to justify it. I ran a hand across the map, stopping at the intersection point. That channel wasn't widened for boats, I said. It was widened to move water, Emily replied, and whatever comes with it. Silence sat heavy for a second. Then I grabbed my phone. Hayes, I said when he picked up. Jack, Dr. Aaron Hayes replied. I was hoping you'd call. You've been tracking movement? Since last night, he said. Patterns are off. How far off? There was a pause. Enough that I wouldn't be standing in open water right now. That confirmed it. You need to get out here, I said. I'm already on the way. I hung up and looked back at Emily. They're hosting the event anyway, I said. Of course they are. She replaced the warning signs. Emily didn't react right away. Then she let out a short breath. That's not negligence, she said. That's liability avoidance. They're trying to make it look safe. They're trying to make it sell. I nodded once. Then I started stacking the documents. Help me organize this, I said. Emily raised an eyebrow. You're not going back there to argue, are you? No. Good. I'm going back there with proof. She gave a small, tight smile. About time. We worked fast. Deed copies on top. Survey overlays next. My father's notes clipped together beneath them. I added photos from my phone. Missing signs, broken chain, excavator tracks. Every piece connected. Every piece pointed one direction. By the time Hayes pulled up outside, I had everything in a single binder. He stepped in without knocking, eyes already scanning the table. Show me, he said. I flipped it open. He studied the maps first, then the flow lines, then the photos. They opened it during early migration, he said quietly. That's the worst possible timing. How many? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled a small receiver from his bag, set it on the table and powered it on. A screen lit up. Dots. Moving. How many of those are tagged? I asked. 2, he said. And the rest? Untracked. I stared at the screen. How many do you estimate? Hayes looked at me. Enough that you don't want anyone swimming out there. That settled the last doubt. Emily crossed her arms. Then why isn't the county shutting this down? Hayes gave a short, humorless laugh. Because nobody's told them anything they can act on, he said. Not officially. I closed the binder. That's about to change. He glanced toward the door, toward the direction of the lake. You don't have much time, he said. I know. Emily stepped closer. What's your move? I picked up the binder. We go back, I said. We put this in front of people who can't ignore it. And if they still do, she asked. I looked at her. Then we make sure they're standing there when it happens. Hayes didn't argue. Emily didn't either. Outside, I could still hear the distant echo of music drifting from the lake. The event was in full swing now, and the maps didn't lie. The path they'd opened led straight through the middle of it. By the time we got back, there were twice as many cars. The gravel lot was full, overflow pushing down toward the tree line where trucks had no business parking. Music carried louder now, not background anymore. Deliberate, curated. The kind meant to make people forget where they were. I stepped out with the binder under my arm. Emily stayed close. Hayes walked ahead, already scanning the waterline like he was reading something no one else could see. Look at the docks, he said quietly. I followed his gaze. More platforms, more ladders. People already sitting with their feet in the water. Kids leaning over the edges, tossing crumbs like it was a pond in a park. They're drawing them closer, Hayes said. They don't know that, Emily replied. They don't need to, he said. Noise does the rest. We moved fast. No hesitation this time. The closer we got, the more wrong it felt. Not loud wrong, just layered. Engines revving, music pulsing, voices stacking over each other. All of it pushing outward across the water. And the lake pushing back. Tyler Quinn spotted us first. He was standing near the edge of the dock, camera already rolling. You came back, he said. Told you I would, I replied. He glanced at the binder. That what I think it is? It's what they don't want you to see. His expression shifted. Less curiosity now, more focus. Then I'm staying close, he said. Do that. We stepped onto the dock. Melissa was already at the center of it all, standing near a makeshift stage, microphone in hand. A banner hung behind her. Summit Crown Shores. Waterfront living redefined. She saw us immediately. Of course she did. And for a moment, just a moment, her smile slipped. Then it came back. Stronger. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said into the microphone, voice smooth, practiced. "Before we begin the next portion of our presentation, it looks like we have a returning guest." A few people laughed. I didn't stop walking. "This won't take long," I said. "It won't take any time at all," she replied, "because you're not interrupting this event again." "I'm not asking. That's becoming a pattern." I stepped closer, setting the binder down on one of the tables beside her. "Gate 4 was opened illegally," I said, loud enough for the nearest group to hear. "That channel feeds directly from Black Reed Marsh. You've created an active hazard zone in open water." A murmur. Small, but real. Melissa didn't flinch. "All modifications were reviewed," she said, "and approved for safety." "By who?" Tyler called from behind the camera. She ignored him. "You're making claims," she said to me. "Again." "I'm presenting evidence." I opened the binder. First page. The deed. "This lake," I said, tapping the paper, "including the bed, the gates, and the eastern channel, is privately owned, not managed, not shared. Owned." A man near the front leaned in, reading. "That can't be right," he said. "It is," Emily replied, stepping forward. "Recorded and filed. County verified." Melissa's jaw tightened. "This is not relevant to today's event," she said. "It's the only thing that's relevant," I said, "because you don't have authority to open that gate." She turned slightly, addressing the crowd again. "What Mr. Turner is doing is attempting to create confusion," she said. "He's been opposed to this development from the start." "I've been opposed to unsafe development," I said. "There's no safety issue." Hayes stepped forward then. "Yes, there is." Melissa's eyes flicked to him. "And you are?" she asked. "Dr. Aaron Hayes," he said. "Wildlife behavior specialist. I've been tracking movement patterns in Black Reed Marsh for the past 48 hours. That got attention. People shifted. Phones came up. "There's increased activity moving through the eastern channel," he continued. "Displacement behavior. That means something has been disturbed, and it's moving." Melissa gave a short, dismissive laugh. "So now we're bringing in experts to tell ghost stories?" "They're not stories," Hayes said. "They're patterns." "What patterns?" someone asked from the side. Hayes pointed toward the water. "Watch the surface," he said. For a second, nobody spoke. Then, a ripple. Not wide, not dramatic, but wrong. It moved against the direction of the wind. A few people leaned forward. "What was that?" someone said. "Probably a fish," Melissa replied quickly. "It's not a fish," I said. She shot me a look. "Enough," she said. "Security?" "Wait," Tyler said sharply. "Don't cut this." He stepped closer, camera tight on Melissa's face. "Are you aware of any wildlife risk tied to the channel modification?" he asked. "There is no wildlife risk," she said. "Then why remove the warning signs?" Silence. Not long, but enough. "They were outdated," she said. "They were accurate," I replied. The ripple came again. Closer this time. Someone near the edge stepped back. "Okay, what is that?" a woman asked. Melissa raised her voice slightly. "Everyone, please, there is no danger." "Then get them out of the water," I said. "No." That word landed hard. "Melissa," I said, quieter now, "you need to listen." "I've listened to you for months," she snapped, "and all you've done is try to stop progress. This isn't progress. It is to everyone here, not if they get hurt." She stepped closer. "No one is getting hurt," she said, Because there's nothing out there. Behind her, a group of kids climbed down a ladder into the water. Hayes stiffened. "That's not good," he said under his breath. I moved instinctively. "Get them out," I said. Melissa grabbed my arm. "You're not causing a scene." I pulled free. "This is already a scene." Another ripple, longer, deeper. And this time, it didn't disappear right away. It held, just beneath the surface, moving, toward the dock. The music kept playing, the crowd kept talking, but the water had changed, and the people closest to it were starting to notice. One of the kids looked down. "Hey," he said, "what's that?" No one answered. Because now, everyone saw it, and there was no explaining it away anymore. It started as a line, not a splash, not a break, just a slow, deliberate line cutting through the reflection, like something rewriting the surface from underneath. The kid nearest the ladder froze. "That's not a fish," he said. No one laughed this time. The water shifted again, wider now. Another line joined the first, crossing at an angle that didn't match the current. Then a third, deeper, pushing a small wake ahead of it like something heavy moving just below. "Out," I said, already moving. "Everybody out of the water, now." A few people reacted right away. Parents grabbing arms, pulling kids up ladders. Others hesitated, looking back toward Melissa like they were waiting for permission. "There is no emergency," she said into the microphone, voice tighter now. "Please remain calm." Hayes stepped past me, eyes locked on the surface. "They're not dispersing," he said. "They're holding line." "Meaning?" Tyler asked, still filming. "Meaning they're not afraid of the noise," Hayes replied. "That's wrong." Another movement, closer. This time it broke the surface just enough to show shape. A ridge, dark, narrow. Gone again before anyone could process it fully, but enough. A woman screamed, not loud, not hysterical, just sharp, involuntary. The kind of sound that cuts through everything else. And then the water answered. A second ridge surfaced near the floating platform, longer than the first. It slid forward with purpose, displacing water instead of breaking it. "Everybody out!" I shouted, grabbing the emergency mic from the stand before Melissa could react. "Move to the west side. Do not stay on the east docks." The speakers carried my voice across the lake, cutting through the music. Melissa lunged for the mic. "Give me that." "Not now," I said, pulling it away. "You're escalating this." "I'm responding to it." A splash. Not big, but wrong. A man near the edge lost his footing as something brushed past beneath him. He scrambled backward, knocking into another person. Drinks fell, chairs tipped. The calm broke. People started moving. Not orderly, not controlled. Just movement. Away from the water, away from whatever was under it. "West side," I repeated. "Stay shallow. Keep distance from the channel." Hayes grabbed a length of rope from the dock, tossing one end toward a group trying to climb onto a boat. "Use the line," he said. "Don't jump in." The engines kicked on. Too many at once. Boats surged forward without direction, creating waves that bounced back off the dock, pushing water inward, toward the very place people were trying to escape. "Cut the engines," I yelled. "You're driving them closer." No one listened. They were panicking now. A second scream, louder this time, from near the platform. I turned. One of the floating tubes had flipped sideways, two people scrambling to hold onto it as something moved beneath them, lifting the edge just enough to tilt it. Not attacking, just moving. But that was enough. I dropped the mic and ran. My boots hit the boards hard, crossing the length of the dock in seconds. The old skiff was still tied where I'd left it earlier. Fuel half full, motor cold. Good enough. I untied it in one motion, shoved off, and yanked the cord. The engine coughed. Once, twice, then caught. I pushed the throttle forward and swung the bow between the dock and the open water, positioning the hull as a barrier. "Grab the side," I shouted to the two in the water. They didn't argue. Hands hit the edge of the boat, fingers gripping tight as I angled the skiff, forcing space between them and the moving lines beneath the surface. Another ridge surfaced 10 yards out, then another. 3, 4. Not random, moving in the same direction, toward the center of the lake, toward the noise. "Jack," Hayes called from the dock. "They're coming through in sequence." I saw it. Spacing. Pattern. This wasn't chaos. It was movement. And we were in the middle of it. "Sheriff's on the way," Tyler shouted, still filming from the edge. "I called it in." Good. We needed control. Because this wasn't going to stop on its own. I guided the skiff backward, keeping the people clinging to it between me and the shallows. "Kick slow," I told them. "Stay with the boat." They nodded, eyes wide, not looking down. Smart. Never look down. Behind me, more people were climbing onto the dock, scrambling over each other to get away from the edge. Chairs collapsed underfoot. Someone fell, got pulled up again. Melissa stood near the stage, frozen for half a second, just long enough to realize she'd lost control. Then she turned. "Security!" she shouted. "Clear the dock!" They moved, but they were too late. This wasn't something you cleared. This was something you survived. A police siren cut through the noise. Then another. 3 boats came in fast from the south inlet, lights flashing across the water. Sheriff Cole Bennett stood at the front of the lead vessel, one hand on the rail, scanning the scene like he was already mapping it out. "Clear a lane," he shouted as they approached. "West side, move them west." Finally, direction. I angled the skiff again, guiding the 2 swimmers toward the shallows where the water dropped off slower, where the old barrier lines still held. Hayes was already there, helping pull people out, directing them further inland. "Keep moving," he called. "Don't stop at the edge." Another movement under the boat. Closer. I felt it this time. Not a hit. A pass. Something large gliding just beneath the hull, shifting the water enough to rock the skiff slightly. I steadied it, gripping the wheel tighter. "Easy," I muttered, more to myself than anything else, because panic would get someone hurt. And right now, we were still ahead of it, but only just. Behind me, the lake kept moving, not violently, not wildly, but with intent. And for the first time since this started, everyone understood. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was what came after. The lake wasn't thrashing. That was the part people didn't understand. It wasn't chaos. It was movement. Deliberate. Controlled. Dozens of dark shapes sliding beneath the surface, adjusting to noise, pressure, direction. The water looked alive. Not violent, just aware. And we were in its way. "Keep them moving!" Sheriff Cole Bennett's voice cut across the water. "West side only! Clear the eastern channel!" His boat cut through the middle, not chasing anything, redirecting. 2 wildlife officers followed, using long poles to guide the movement without trapping it. "Don't corner them!" Hayes shouted from the shoreline. "Give them a path back!" Bennett nodded once. He understood. You don't fight something like this. You move around it. I pulled the skiff in tighter to the dock, helping the last few swimmers grab hold. A man slipped, trying to climb out, his foot sliding off the rung. "I've got you," I said, grabbing his arm and hauling him up. "Jesus, what are those things?" he gasped. "Not your problem," I said. "Move." He didn't argue. Nobody did anymore. The panic had burned through into something else. Focus. People were listening now, following direction, getting out. That was the only thing keeping this from turning worse. Behind me, a sharp crack echoed across the dock. I turned. Melissa. She'd stepped backward too fast, heel catching between two boards. Her balance shifted, arms flaring out instinctively. And then she was gone. Straight into the water. The splash wasn't big, but it didn't need to be. Every head snapped toward it. For a split second, nobody moved. Then the water around her rippled, tight, fast, closing inward. "Jack!" Hayes shouted. I didn't think. I turned the skiff hard, engine roaring as I cut across the gap. Melissa surfaced once, coughing, eyes wide, not angry anymore, not controlled, just scared. She reached for the dock but missed. The water shifted again beneath her. I saw it, closer than before. A shape angling in, drawn by movement, noise, disruption. Not attacking, but investigating. That was enough. I drove the skiff between her and the movement, the hull slamming through the surface just hard enough to push water outward. "Grab the side," I shouted. She hesitated, just a second, then did. Her hands hit the edge, slipping once before locking on. I leaned over, grabbed her jacket, and pulled. Dead weight for a moment. Then she came over the side, collapsing into the bottom of the boat, coughing hard, water spilling from her hair and sleeves. "Stay down," I said. She didn't argue, didn't speak at all. I turned the skiff back toward the west shallows, keeping distance from the channel as the shapes continued moving past where she'd fallen. Hayes was waiting at the edge. "Bring her here," he said. I eased in close enough for him to grab the side. Together, we got her up onto the dock. She stumbled once, caught herself on the railing, still breathing hard. For the first time since I'd met her, she didn't say a word. No orders, no accusations, just silence. Behind us, the lake kept moving. Sheriff Bennett's team had established a loose perimeter, guiding the flow away from the densest areas. Not trapping, not forcing, redirecting. "Keep the channel open," Bennett called. "Let them clear." That was the key. You close them in, they panic. You give them space, they leave. Hayes stepped beside me, eyes still scanning the water. "They're following the current," he said. "Same line as before." "Back toward the breach," I replied. He nodded. "They're not here to stay." "They were pushed," I said. "Now they're passing through." Another shape surfaced near the far dock, longer this time, unmistakable even at distance. People flinched back instinctively, but nobody screamed. Not anymore. They understood. Tyler was still filming, camera steady, capturing everything. Good. We were going to need that. Melissa finally spoke. "This," she started, voice rough. "This is your fault." I looked at her. She was shaking. Not from anger. From cold. From shock. Even now. She needed something to hold on to. "You opened the gate," I said. "I improved access," she snapped, the edge coming back, thin but there. "You removed the barrier. You told people to panic." "I told them to move." Her jaw tightened. "You wanted this," she said. "You've been against this project from the beginning." "That doesn't make this my doing. It makes you responsible for how people reacted." I held her gaze. "No," I said. "It makes you responsible for why they had to." That landed. Not loud, but deep enough. She looked away first. Sheriff Bennett stepped up onto the dock a moment later, boots hitting the boards with purpose. "Everyone accounted for?" he asked. "Last group's out," Hayes said. "No one left in the water." Bennett nodded, then looked at me. "You called this?" he asked. "I warned it," I said. He glanced at the lake, then back at the broken flow line in the distance. "What exactly are we dealing with?" "Displacement," Hayes answered, "triggered by unauthorized channel breach. Bennett's expression didn't change, but his attention sharpened. Unauthorized by who? He asked. Melissa straightened slightly, pushing wet hair back from her face. By the HOA, she said. Within our rights. I shook my head once. No, I said. Not within any rights that matter. Bennett looked between us. Then we're going to need to sort that out, he said. I nodded. Good, I replied. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. The lake had calmed. The people were safe. But the truth of what happened, that was just starting to surface. And this time, there were witnesses. The lake didn't go still all at once. It slowed. The movement that had carved lines through the surface softened into scattered ripples, then to nothing at all. One by one, the shapes disappeared back toward the eastern channel, following the same path they had entered. No splashes. No chase, just absence. Like the lake had corrected itself. The noise on the dock didn't return. No music. No laughter. No chatter. Just voices low and uneven. People checking on each other, calling names, counting heads. How many? Sheriff Bennett asked. One injured shoulder, Hayes said. A few cuts, no fatalities. Bennett nodded once. Get them off the dock. Clear the shoreline. His deputies moved quickly, directing people back toward the gravel lot, away from the water. This time, no one argued. Melissa stood where we'd pulled her out, arms wrapped around herself, wet jacket clinging to her shoulders. She wasn't shaking as much now, but she wasn't steady either. Tyler was still filming. Not the chaos anymore. The aftermath. That mattered more. Keep that rolling, I said as I passed him. I am, he replied. Every second. Good. Because what happened next wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be quiet. And quiet is where truth holds. I walked back to the table where I'd left the binder. Still there. Untouched. I picked it up, flipped it open, and stepped toward Bennett. This is what you're looking for, I said. He didn't take it immediately. Start talking, he said. I nodded. Gate 4 was opened 2 nights ago, I said. Barrier cut, channel widened, no authorization from the property owner. Which is you? He asked. Yes. Bennett took the binder then, flipping through the first pages. Deed, survey maps, photographs. These records current? He asked. Filed and verified, Emily said, stepping in beside me. County archive copies match. Bennett scanned the boundary line, then looked up. This puts the channel outside HOA jurisdiction, he said. It always was, I replied. Behind him, Hayes stepped closer. The wildlife movement you just saw was displacement, he said. Triggered by that breach. They didn't come here on their own. Bennett nodded slowly, absorbing it. And you're certain of that? Yes. A deputy approached from the edge of the dock, holding something in a plastic evidence bag. Sheriff, he said, found this near the eastern bend. Bennett took it. Chain. Cut clean through one link. Fresh. I recognized it immediately. That's from the gate, I said. Bennett turned it over in his hand, then looked back at Melissa. You authorized work out there? He asked. She straightened slightly. We approved access improvements, she said, within community development scope. That's not what I asked, Bennett said. Her jaw tightened. We acted in the best interest of, did you authorize the removal of a physical barrier? He cut in. Silence. Not long, but long enough. Yes, she said finally. For navigation purposes. Bennett held up the chain. This was cut, he said. Not removed. Cut. That's a contractor decision, she replied quickly. Which contractor? She hesitated. Tyler's camera zoomed in. Blue Arc Development, she said. There it was. Richard Grant. I felt Emily shift beside me. Bennett made a note. Any permits? He asked. Melissa didn't answer. Any environmental review? He added. Still nothing. Hayes stepped forward. There wouldn't be, he said, because it wouldn't pass one. Bennett closed the binder halfway, then looked back at the lake. Calm now. Still, like nothing had happened. But the dock told a different story. Chairs overturned, drinks spilled, people shaken. Evidence doesn't disappear just because the water does. Anyone else have information? Bennett asked. Daniel stepped forward. Quiet, controlled, but done staying silent. I do, he said. Melissa's head snapped toward him. Daniel. He didn't look at her. The HOA paid for that work, he said. Out of reallocated funds, no board vote, no recorded approval. Bennett's attention shifted. You have documentation? Daniel nodded. Invoices, transfers, internal emails. Bring them to the station, Bennett said. We'll log everything. Melissa stepped forward then, voice sharper now. This is getting out of hand, she said. We had an incident, yes, but no one was seriously harmed. There's no need to escalate. Someone could have died, I said. She turned on me. They didn't. That's not because of you. Her expression hardened. You orchestrated this, she said. You created panic. Tyler's camera shifted slightly, capturing her full face now. You warned them, he said, on camera, before anything happened. She faltered. Just a fraction, but enough. I was responding to misinformation, she said. No, I said. You were ignoring it. Bennett stepped between us. That's enough, he said. He handed the binder to one of his deputies. Secure this, he said. Chain 2. The deputy nodded, moving quickly. Bennett looked back at Melissa. You're not under arrest, he said. But you're not leaving town either. Her eyes narrowed. On what grounds? On the grounds that you authorized work outside your jurisdiction that resulted in a public safety incident, he said. We're going to figure out exactly how that happened. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time since I'd met her, she didn't have an answer. The crowd was gone now. The dock nearly empty. Only a few people remained. Hayes, Emily, Daniel, Tyler, and Bennett. The power had shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. I looked back at the lake one more time. Still calm, still quiet, but different. Because now, it wasn't just me who understood what it could do, and it wasn't just me who knew who had changed it. The truth was out, and it wasn't going back under. They called the meeting that same night. Not a public announcement, no banners, no invitations. Just a message pushed through HOA channels and county contacts. Emergency session, mandatory attendance. By the time we walked into the clubhouse, the room was already full. Residents lined the walls, some still in damp clothes, others wrapped in towels or jackets borrowed from strangers. Conversations stayed low, controlled, but not calm. Not anymore. They had seen enough. At the front of the room, a folding table had been set up. County officials sat behind it, files stacked high. Sheriff Bennett stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching everything. Melissa was already there. Dry now. Changed. Composed. Or trying to be. She stood near the table, speaking quietly with a man in a dark suit, Richard Grant. His presence filled the space differently than hers. Less performance, more calculation. When he saw me, his expression didn't change. That told me everything I needed to know. He already understood how bad this was. He just thought he could still manage it. Emily stepped beside me, binder in hand. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded once. We moved forward. The county attorney, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, tapped the table lightly. "Let's begin," she said. The room settled. "This session concerns the incident at Cypress Hollow Lake," she continued. "Specifically, unauthorized modifications to water control infrastructure and the resulting public safety risk." No one interrupted. No one needed to. "Mr. Turner," she said, looking directly at me, "you submitted documentation?" I stepped forward, placing the binder on the table. "Yes." "Walk us through it." I opened it. First page. "The original deed," I said, "filed 1948, covers the lake bed, spillway, and all 4 control gates, including Gate 4. She leaned in, scanning it. "Ownership is clear," she said. "Not shared," I added. "Not HOA managed, private." A murmur moved through the room. Melissa shifted slightly. Richard didn't. I turned the page. "Survey comparison," I said. "County records versus Summit Crown development plans." Emily stepped forward, sliding a printed overlay across the table. "Boundary shift averages 30 feet, she said. "Consistent across multiple documents." The county attorney frowned. "Consistent how?" "Same direction," Emily replied. "Same beneficiary." She didn't have to say the name. Everyone already knew it. Richard spoke for the first time. "Preliminary drafts often include—" "These aren't drafts," Emily cut in. "They're used in contracts, loan filings, and investor materials." Silence. He didn't answer. I turned another page. "Gate 4, I said. "Photographs taken this morning. Barrier cut, chain severed, channel widened." Sheriff Bennett stepped forward, placing the evidence bag on the table. "Recovered on site," he said. The county attorney looked at Melissa. "Did you authorize this work?" Melissa straightened. "Yes," she said, "for access improvements." "Within your jurisdiction?" the attorney asked. "Yes." I shook my head. "No." All eyes turned back to me. "You don't have jurisdiction over that gate," I said, "or the channel, or the land it sits on." "That's your interpretation," Melissa replied. "It's the recorded boundary." The attorney looked between us. "Is there documentation supporting the HOA's authority over that area?" she asked. Melissa hesitated. Richard stepped in. "The development plan includes shared use assumptions." "Assumptions aren't authority," the attorney said. That landed. Hard. Daniel stepped forward then. "I have financial records," he said. Melissa turned sharply. "Daniel!" He didn't stop. "Funds were transferred from HOA reserves to cover the excavation," he said. "No board vote. No approval record." He handed over copies. The attorney flipped through them, brow tightening. "Significant amounts," she said. "Over 100,000, Daniel replied. "Classified as?" "Shoreline Consulting." "Was that accurate?" "No." Melissa stepped forward. "This is internal financial management." "It's misrepresentation," the attorney said. Melissa stopped. The room shifted again. Not panic, not confusion, understanding. Hayes stepped forward next. "Wildlife displacement," he said. "Triggered by the breach. Confirmed by movement patterns and direct observation during the incident." "Meaning?" the attorney asked. "Meaning the animals didn't enter the lake naturally," he said. "They were forced into it." "And the breach caused that?" "Yes." She made another note. Then she looked at Tyler. "You have footage?" He nodded. "From before and during the event," he said. "Warnings, responses, everything." "Submit copies," she said. He stepped forward, handing over a drive. Melissa's composure cracked then. "This is being blown out of proportion," she said. "There was no fatality, no serious harm." That's not the threshold, the attorney replied. It should be. It isn't. Melissa's voice rose. We were improving the community. You exposed it to risk, the attorney said, cutting her off. Silence again. Then, did you instruct removal of warning signs? The attorney asked. Melissa didn't answer. Richard didn't either. The answer was already clear. The attorney closed the folder. Based on what's been presented, she said, this constitutes unauthorized modification of private property, misuse of association funds, and reckless disregard for public safety. No one spoke, because there was nothing left to argue. The room had shifted completely now. No sides, no debate, just facts, the kind that don't bend, the kind that hold. Sheriff Bennett stepped forward. We'll be proceeding with a formal investigation, he said, effective immediately. Melissa looked at Richard. For the first time, he didn't look back. And that was the moment it broke. Not with a shout, not with a collapse, just a quiet realization. They weren't in control anymore, and everything they'd built to hold that control was about to come down. It didn't happen all at once. There was no shouting match, no dramatic exit, just a shift, the kind that settles into a room when everyone understands the outcome before it's spoken. Melissa stood frozen beside the table, her hands resting flat against the edge like she needed something solid to hold onto. Richard had already stepped back, putting space between himself and everything that had just been laid out. That told the room more than anything else. The county attorney gathered the documents into a single stack. These findings will be submitted for formal review, she said. Effective immediately, all development activity connected to the Eastern Channel and marina expansion is suspended. A ripple moved through the room. Not fear, relief. Additionally, she continued, we are initiating a financial audit of Summit Crown Shores HOA, including all reserve fund transactions over the past 6 months. Melissa's head snapped up. You can't do that without... We can, the attorney said, calm and final. And we will. That was the moment it ended. Not with resistance, with silence. Sheriff Bennett stepped forward, his presence filling the gap that control had left behind. Ms. Grant, he said, you'll need to remain available for questioning. Same applies to any contractors involved. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Melissa didn't argue. Didn't nod. She just stood there, looking at the table like she was still trying to say something she could use. But there was nothing left. Because this time, everything had been documented, everything had been seen, and everything had been said out loud. The meeting broke slowly after that. Not rushed, not chaotic. People moved in small groups, voices low, eyes shifting between each other and the front of the room. They weren't looking at Melissa anymore. They were looking at me, not with anger, not with suspicion, with something else. Understanding. Outside, the lake had gone completely still again. By the time I stepped out onto the gravel, the emergency lights were gone. The boats had pulled back. The shoreline was empty. Quiet. The way it was supposed to be. Emily came up beside me. That's it? She asked. For them, I said. Yeah. For you? I looked out toward the water. No, I said. Not yet. Because stopping something was only half of it. The rest was fixing what they'd broken. Over the next few weeks, everything moved fast. Faster than I expected. Faster than Melissa ever planned for. The investigation didn't stall, didn't soften, didn't disappear behind paperwork. Because it couldn't. Too many witnesses, too much evidence, too public. Summit Crown Shores lost its permits first, then its contractors, then its funding. Richard's company pulled out before the formal charges were even filed, trying to distance itself from the damage. It didn't work. The documents tied everything together. The boundary shifts, the unauthorized work, the financial transfers, all of it pointed in one direction. And there was no rewriting it now. Melissa was formally charged with misuse of funds and reckless endangerment tied to the incident, not because of what happened in the water, but because of what she chose to ignore before it did. The HOA board dissolved within a month. Half of them resigned. The rest were replaced. Daniel stayed. Naomi Parker stepped in as interim president. First thing she did, publish every financial record, every invoice, every transfer. Nothing hidden. Nothing explained away. People read it. And once they did, there was no going back. The marina project was canceled. Completely. Not scaled down. Not redesigned. Gone. Emily oversaw the boundary correction filings herself, making sure every inch matched what had always been there. Hayes worked with the county to reestablish a protected buffer around the eastern channel. And me, I went back to the gate. Gate 4, the one my father had underlined twice. It took 3 days to rebuild it. Not just the barrier, the system. Stronger anchors, reinforced chain, clear signage. Not for show, for function. When it was done, I stood there a while. Same place I'd stood 100 times before. Only now, it felt different. Not because the land had changed, because the people had. A week later, a few of the residents came down to the shoreline. Not with chairs, not with banners, just quietly. They stood at a distance, watching, learning, respecting it. That was enough. I didn't close the lake. Could have. Legally, I had every right to. But that wasn't the point. So instead, we built something else. A narrow walkway along the western edge, raised, set back from the water, clear lines, clear limits, a way to see it, without stepping into it. We posted signs again, not warnings, explanations, what the lake was, what it held, why it mattered. People read those too, and they listened, because now they understood what happened when you didn't. That evening, I stood back on the dock. Same boards, same view. No music, no noise, just the water. Still. Quiet, right. Emily joined me after a minute. "You ever think it'd end like this?" she asked. I shook my head. "No," I said. "But I knew it wouldn't end the way they planned." She smiled slightly. "Dad would have liked that." I looked out across the lake. The surface reflected the sky clean again, nothing breaking it, nothing moving underneath that didn't belong there. "Dad didn't care about winning," I said. "He cared about keeping it right." "And you did," she said. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because the lake said it for me. It had always belonged to someone. Not on paper, not in filings, but in responsibility. And now, it had chosen who would carry that forward, not because I fought for it, but because I understood it. And this time, that was enough.
The lesson here isn't about winning an argument or proving someone wrong. It's about knowing what's your responsibility for and standing by it when it's matters. Jake didn't stop that disaster with force or anger. He did it by paying attention, keeping records, and refusing to ignore what he knew was right. When things went bad, it wasn't luck that protected people. It was reparations, patience, and tools that has been there all along. There's something steady about that. In a world where people move fast and cut corners, real strength still looks like someone who takes the time to understand why they're holding and refuse to let it be misused. Not for profit, not for pressure, not for convenience. If you ever had to stand your ground like that, quiet without backing down, drop a yes in the comments or just share where you're watching from. I read everyone. And if stories like this mean something to you, stories about people who don't shout but still don't bend, go ahead and subscribe. There's more ahead.